Hi guys and welcome to the Wet Sock Zoo. In today's episode, I'm going to take you through the process of designing and building a highly realistic and beautiful habitat for the common hippo. I'm going to teach you what is important to keep hippos in zoos to give them the best life possible and how to design a backstage area, holding pens, their sleeping area and the indoor area for the hippos, which is included in the hippo house. If you haven't seen the start of the building of the Hippos house, you can go back and see the episode of the pygmy hippos that are also housed in this Hippo house. I'm Zamfira from Zamfira Games and let's get started. And before we jump right into building this hippo habitat, I want to talk about some future plans for this channel and for my zoos in Planet Zoo. As you might know, the newest DLC, the Oceania pack, is going to be released tomorrow if you're seeing this on a Monday when this video is published. So on the 19th September, which is tomorrow for me now, the Oceania pack is going to be released, and that means that we will stop building for my current zoos for the moment, because of course I want to build for the newest animals that are going to be released. And I was thinking about how to include the animals that are in the Oceania pack into my zoos. If you don't know, the Wet Sock Zoo, where we are in right now, is a tropical inspired zoo where basically everything has soggy feet, which is the Logan of the zoo. So we are building habitats only for animals that are somehow related to water and being aquatic or semi-aquatic and stuff like that. So I was thinking about how to include the Oceania animals, and they are not really any aquatic besides the little blue penguin. So I didn't want to include them in this zoo. And my other zoo, which is the Desert Wildlife Park, is, as you might can tell by the name, a desert inspired zoo, and the Oceania animals are also not desert animals. So I was thinking about how am I going to include the animals now in my zoos. I was thinking about making another mini zoo, which would be like an Australia, Oceania zoo, or maybe a tropical zoo, but I didn't quite know what to do with the zoo then. And also having in mind that the Oceania pack is not the last DLC that we will get for this game. We will probably get a handful of other DLCs too in the future. So, yeah, I was thinking maybe if we will get another DLC, for example, let's just say a Highland pack or a temperate pack. If I then had a desert, a semi-aquatic zoo, and then a somewhat Oceania-inspired zoo, the newest DLC also wouldn't fit, and I would start over with a new mini zoo and probably do this for quite a while. And this doesn't really make any sense for me to have like a bunch of different zoos. Of course, it is fun to make different themed zoos, of course, but making new mini zoos with every DLC that is coming out is just not really practical, because I will probably not be able to finish any zoo then, because of course they take some time, and I don't want to build a zoo just for like 4 or 5 animals that are included within one DLC. So I thought about building a city zoo. I wanted to do this quite some time ago, which I basically built a zoo that is in a temperate biome, similar to where I live. And of course, then having different kinds of animals and different sections of the zoos, for example, that are like themed of the biomes or the continents and stuff like that. And that could of course be bigger, since we not only have like one theme in the zoo with these specific animals. And what that means is basically that I decided to start a temperate city zoo tomorrow when the Oceania pack is going to be released. I'm going to tell you something about the zoo that I planned in the next episode, that is going to be for one of the animals of the new DLC, and what the whole story is behind the zoo that I'm building. But I can tell you that, of course, we will have different sections in this city zoo. And I'm just simply going to start with my Oceania part of the zoo, which is going to be called Tiki Town, because I thought we have like a lot of these statues and stuff like that within the newest DLC. We could have a little glance of the new building pieces in the screenshots and videos that Frontier released of the newest DLC. So I will simply start with this section of the zoo and not technically start building from the entrance and then more into the zoo. I might maybe do a entrance before I start building the habitats for the Oceania animals, but I will see what I can do and how much time I have, and how much time it takes me to build these habitats. So we will see, but that are just the future plans for now. So of course we will firstly do all the animals of the newest DLC in the next few episodes, so you can stay excited for that one. And yeah, that is basically just a little chat I wanted to have with you about the new zoo. And of course, let me know what you think about it, what animals you would love to see first of the newest DLC, and what are your favorites for now. And stay tuned for what is coming in the next episode. But now coming back to the hippo habitat that we are building right now. As you might know, we started building the habitat for the pygmy hippos in the latest episode. So if you haven't seen that, go check that out after this video. And this habitat for the common hippo is actually very similar to the pygmy hippo habitat, besides that we have less foliage within this habitat. Simply because the common hippo would basically eat everything that is not like secured with any sort of like fencing or stones that they cannot pass. So it is a little bit bare. We still have some foliage that is secured for the hippos so that they cannot eat them. And we have a lot of grass for the hippos because they actually need a big grazing area for them, because in the wild they will go out at night, or basically at dusk till dawn, to graze a little, so they require quite a big area for them to graze. So that's why we have this huge area behind the hippo house that is just bare grass, so they can spend their nights grazing as they would in the wild. And then of course we have this little sandy area that you saw in the beginning, so that they can just enjoy themselves on some sand on the shore of the little lake that we have. You also saw me building or placing down a lot of rocks in the beginning, or not really placing me, but you saw them. But I actually had to later delete all the rocks and the dead trees that I put into the water area, because the traversable area of the hippos is very finicky, and they couldn't use a whole lot of the water area because of the stones and the branches and stuff like that. So I needed to delete everything. That's why I didn't really show you how to place the rocks or what specifically I used, because they are not there anymore. So we only have these underwater plants right now. You will see that in the cinematic shots at the end. a little better. But yeah, that was actually a little sad because I had these rocks and branches with the pygmy hippo habitat, and their traversable area is a bit better. Maybe because of the size, I don't really know. Or if the pygmy hippo is a newer animal, I don't even know if they are a base game animal or not, to be honest. And now coming to the husbandry guidelines for the common hippo. For the outdoor area, it is required to have, of course, a big pool for the animals that is deep enough for them to completely submerge themselves in the water because they cannot control the loss of water through their skin, so they need to be able to submerge themselves at the daytime whenever possible. And they also require a sandy shoreline or bank where they can spend their time sunbathing. And at night, as I said, they normally come out of the water and spend their night grazing, so they also require a big grazing area. And of course, the habitat should be decorated in a natural way so that they are encouraged to display their natural behavior. That also includes visual barriers like big logs, which are also used for the hippos to retreat themselves from the eyes of the visitors or possibly also from other individuals, and also for the female when it gives birth to its calf, they normally hide their calf behind, for example, a big log. So that is also important for the female. And if a zoo has a breeding pair of hippos in a habitat, it is also required to have the opportunity to separate the bull from the female or from the female and the calf. So it is required to have a separate area where the bull can be housed also for a little longer period of time. For example, when the calf is still very small, so that the bull can spend a couple of weeks or maybe even months in a separate area so they don't just spend their time in the little holding pen. That's why I built a bigger area for the bull in the backstage that is not visible for the guests. And I don't really show you how to build it because it is basically decorated the same way as the main habitat. So you will see the bull area in the cinematic shots at the end. And these stalls that I'm building right now, it should be made out of concrete, for example, or something hard and easy to clean, so that these area can just be easily cleaned by the staff by just spraying them down, for example. And the hippos also each need a little holding pen in the back because hippos are pretty dangerous animals for the staff, so you don't want the staff to be in the habitat, for example, for cleaning and maintenance or maybe feeding and stuff like that. When the hippos are in the habitat, so they need these little holding pens that are also laid out with a concrete yard and also a little water area that is just big enough for them to submerge themselves in the water. And I, of course, made sure that all artificial barriers and fences and the sliding doors are made out of very sturdy material, hence why I use these very big metal bars, because the hippo is a very strong animal and you don't want them to break, for example, a sliding door and break out. So that's why I use these very big ones and also these heavy brackets for the sliding door. And also for the barriers that you saw me building right at the beginning in the outside area where the animal would, for my liking, just would be able to be a little too close to the barriers that we have. For example, the little glass viewing that we have right at the beginning. I made sure to make another very sturdy fence in the water, just like a meter before the glass barrier so they don't come up too close. And also where we have this little bridge leading up to the hippo house, there we have already like a fencing underneath the bridge, but of course it is way too thin for the big hippo, so I place another very big and sturdy fence in front of there to just make it extra secure and of course that the guests can also feel safe. And some facts for you about the common hippo, if you didn't know that yet. The common hippo is the one of the only two species of hippos, which are the common hippo and the pygmy hippo, which are both presented in the Woodstock Zoo. And the name hippo comes from an ancient Greek word which basically means river horse. The common hippo is native to the sub-Sahara of Africa and the third biggest land mammal that we have. And it is very well known for its appearance, with its eyes, nose and ears very high up on its head, so the face can stay out of the water even though the whole body is submerged underwater, and for its very huge tusks that it have, mainly for fighting purposes. And also the bone structure in its jaw makes it possible for the hippo to open its jaw around 180 degrees wide. Hippos normally spend their day laying on their belly in shallow water, and they form groups of 20 to 100 individuals that are led by females. And the males of these groups are normally at the shore, at the very edge of the herd, so they can protect their females. If the hippos are in a little deeper water, they don't really swim but rather move forward by bouncing off the bottom, and they only need to surface for around every 4 to 6 minutes to breathe air, while the calves normally need to go back to the surface around every 2 to 3 minutes. When laying on their belly, the hippos are almost like little islands, and birds, for example, will sit on top of the hippos to catch fish, or they sometimes also pick off insects and parasites off their skin. But has also been seen that small animals like turtles and small crocodiles are sunbathing on top of the hippo's back. And the hippos produce a natural sunblock, which is a reddish secrete that comes out of their skin and acts, as I said, as a natural sunblock for them, so they don't burn themselves, but it doesn't prevent the skin from the hippos from cracking when they stay out of the water too much, so that's why they are just a lot in the water during the daytime and during the hottest time of the day. In the nighttime, the hippos come out of the water and on land to forage, and they eat an average of 80 pounds of grass each night, and their spacious stomach can hold up to 2-day portions of grass. However, they can technically survive 3 weeks without any food. And we are now quickly finishing the hippo house itself. For the hippo house, I took my inspiration from the Cologne Zoo, which I visited just a couple of weeks ago. They also had a hippo house where they also had crocodiles, I think the aardvark, and some other small species. I don't really remember. But I basically took my inspiration from the building itself for this hippo house that I'm building. And they also had these solid walls and then a complete glass roof like I'm doing here, and then they had these big metal bars that I'm placing here right now, also to of course support the roof. And I honestly really like the outcome. It had this little like greenhouse vibe, and of course the hippos will have a lot of natural lighting if they are held indoors. So I really liked it. And just a little tip from my side for you. If you are using gridded pieces, like for example these roof pieces that I use, but also of course normal wall pieces, and if you want to decorate the building somehow like I did with these big metal bars, you can just place one of the gridded pieces down and then decorating it how you want it, and then copy the gridded pieces with the decorations, and then everything will be put within the grid that you have. So you can save yourself some time instead of placing all the gridded pieces and then starting to decorate and needing to like select everything and copy everything and precise movement, and sometimes the precise movement is just a little bit off. So yeah, you can use that. You just need to make sure that everything is perfectly aligned, so when you copy them, that for example on the opposite side, when they are basically mirrored, the pieces, that they also come together really nicely. And lastly, we are just also adding, of course, a ventilation system. I use these vents and these, like, I don't know, pipes from the workshop on Steam. If you use something like aircon or vents, they are multiple different sets of these aircon pieces, and they are honestly really nice because we only have the aircon itself in game and then these little vents. You can of course use these if they are enough for you, but just adding these pipes just adds a little more of the realism. And they also had these pretty open and visible in the Hippo Dome in Cologne, so I used them again and then just deleted the little vent pieces and put down the habitat coolers, because of course they also move and they have this little animation where there's like some air coming out of them, and I honestly really liked it. And of course it brings down the temperature within the house and the hippos can have it a little bit cooler inside. And what I forgot to mention is that the indoor areas for the hippos are relatively small. That is because the zoo is located in a biome where it stays warm the whole year round, so they don't really need to be held inside for like multiple months of the year because it is simply too cold for them outside. So that's why the areas are relatively small. I would have done them bigger, or I would advise you to make them bigger if you build your zoo, for example, in a temperate biome. But I thought because they like really rarely just need to be inside, to not make them too big, and they would only be inside if they want to stay a little bit cooler if it is too hot outside, or for like any special occasions when the hippos are not held outside. And we are almost at the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed it and that you could learn a lot from me about how to keep hippos in a zoo and how to make a beautiful and realistic habitat for them. Make sure to hit the like button and to leave a comment. And if you haven't noticed, we are very close to my first 100 subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, don't forget to do so. And also to don't miss any videos that are coming up, and to stay tuned for the next episode. That is for the new DLC that is coming up just tomorrow. So you can be excited. And until the next video, bye guys!